So loyal to people. And maybe I'm loyal to a fault, but I'm so loyal to people that when somebody's slightly disloyal to me, I look upon it as a great act of horror.
And how are you different than you were 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, I used to say, and in fact, I think I said in my first book that, and maybe this was foolish, but I really meant it, that someday I'd like to maybe lose everything for a period of time to see who's loyal and who's not loyal. And I found out a lot of things.
Did you find out who's loyal and
No,
not
I
loyal?
tell you what, and you can't guess it. You can't predict it. You think certain people would be loyal no matter what, and it turns out that they're not. And you just can't predict it. It's very difficult.
And that
I think I would have treated people differently. I think that, some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people I think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. I love getting even with people, but I will.
Slow up. You love getting even.
Oh, absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye. You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do. But anyway,
but tell me. You're going to get even with some people. Because
I know. If given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that are disloyal to me. Come on, Governor. Even though you didn't endorse me.
He's not forgotten.
I never forget.
Loyalty. That's what Donald Trump was talking about there. And I will be discussing what's going on with Donald Trump a little bit later. Trump campaign, he is clapping back at Biden, the DOJ, after these latest charges in Mar-a-Lago over these seized document case. Aren't classified documents, the Presidential Records Act. I've told you about it since the beginning of time. They have nothing, but they're going to charge him with everything under the sun. I mean, I read this and I was like, there's no way. 40 charges. This guy is deranged. Jack Smith is deranged. We are going to be talking about it here coming up in a little bit. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. You heard the heat index today. Hot. 113 for the heat index. And I'm just going to say it right now. That's pretty par for the course. Okay, that's pretty on average, considering that this is late July. It's always hot. I just don't understand these climate change people and Hillary Clinton tweeting out blame a MAGA Republican today because it's hot outside. And climate change. Oh my gosh, I can't believe climate change. It's causing the weather to be hot in the middle of July or like at the end of July. Like this is the hottest time of the year. Calm down, drink some water. It'll be okay. MSNBC ladies. I'm going to be talking about this today. This lady on MSNBC, she swears that Joe Biden did nothing wrong but love Hunter Biden. And who does she swear this to? Who is she talking to? Of course, no one other than the former spokesman for Joe Biden, Jen Psaki on MSNBC. So this was an amazing clip. I'm going to play it here for you coming up in just a bit. Next, a sexual assault survivor and Leah Thomas' teammate. This is gut-wrenching testimony. She testifies about being forced to change in front of a man. Leah, Will is his real name, not his pretend name, his stage name, if you will. Will, she's forced to change in front of him, and he's got full intact male genitalia. So she testifies about that in front of Congress yesterday. Later, wow, breaking news. This just in, like last night, I came across the desk and I was like, my jaw dropped. I knew that this was suspicious. I didn't know quite how, just how suspicious the story was going to get. For me, it's topping the Hammer story, Nancy Pelosi's husband, the Hammer. That story is sus, but this is even more sus. Police call log for Tafari Campbell and his drowning at the Obama estate left blank. The call log has been left blank. The cops refuse to say who that second paddle boarder was. Who is that second paddle boarder out there? Why did Tafari go out there without a life jacket on? He was known to be a good swimmer. He posted on social media that he was swimming in this Olympic style looking pool, and Nothing adds up with the story. We're going to unpack it all here on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio. You can see me on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. You can see me live. So be sure to go subscribe to the channels, like our social media, follow us. It really helps us out, folks. You can also still donate to Seats for Soldiers by texting the word SEATS to the Freaky Fast Jimmy John's text line, SEATS, to 77,000. And you can donate to Hope for the Warriors. They're a national nonprofit helping Central Illinois veterans with things like PTSD, and they transition them back to civilian life from military life. That's what they specialize in. Okay, so let's get into it. MSNBC. It's not the shamelessness of the White House using the Joe Biden just loves his son to dismiss any kind of criticism of Hunter Biden, of him at all as a person, and then of his shady business dealings. It's not that shamelessness of the White House that bothers me, that they're using this Joe Biden just loves his son bit. It's the shamelessness of knowing they can get away with it on corporate media without being challenged. Like Exhibit A, here we have it. MSNBC, this analyst dropping this Joe just loves his son line. This is the line they're using. I knew they were going to use this line. Joe just loves his son. Oh, don't look at these shady business dealings. No. Don't look at the corruption. Look at how much Joe loves his son and look what he'll do for his son. What? This analyst on MSNBC, she's a former Democrat senator, and the host here on MSNBC, drumroll please, Jen Psaki, Peppermint Patty, Joe Biden's former spokeswoman. And yes, Jen Psaki, that same Jen Psaki who, before it was Kieran Jean-Pierre, the black lesbian, before it was her job, it was Jen Psaki's job to dismiss every single question that came at her about Hunter Biden and his business dealings from the White House podium there. So if you don't believe me, let's go back into the Wayback Machine. Here's a quick clip of Jen Psaki dismissing the questions about Hunter. Here we go. When she was White House press secretary. If I got it. Yeah, no, that one's not playing. That's okay. Oh, here we go. I had it muted.
Go ahead. Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question about Russia now.
I think we're
playing. That's okay. We're going to play the MSNBC clip anyway. So yes, just take my word for it. Jen Psaki definitely dismissed Joe Biden and all of his shady business dealings. Never took questions about Hunter Biden. This is what happened on MSNBC. This lady, she comes out and she tries to spin this as if this is like some sort of, oh, like Joe just loves his son now. Okay, this isn't corrupt. Here we go.
to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
What accusations and arguments do you think they're going to make, given this didn't go exactly as planned today?
Well, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing. They are going to try to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
What accusations and arguments do you think?
Believe that it's so shameless. It's like, oh gosh, Hunter Biden, look, he banged prostitutes, sent his father's clips of homemade porn, used his father's political connections as vice president of the United States to get ahead. That is not going to fly with most Americans. I'm sorry, but the average American is going to take a look at that and say, yeah, that Hunter Biden guy, kind of a scumbag. Joe Biden, kind of a scumbag for sticking up for him. Neither will the talking point of Joe Biden being a family man that is not going to fly with the American people. People see right through this. Joe Biden is not a family man. People who love their families actually don't reject their grandchildren because of politics or take showers with their daughters. Don't believe me? Here's Tucker Carlson exposing that. Apparently, in the Ashley Biden diary that was in the hands of some Project Veritas journalists, right? So Tucker Carlson had Harmeet Dillon on, and they both suggested that Joe Biden used the FBI as his personal secret police to go after Project Veritas journalists who were in possession here of this Ashley Biden diary. Let's take a listen to Tucker Carlson. This was him when he was back on Fox. Here we go.
Who runs the country should be asked, you work for a man who showered with his own daughter and by her own account distorted the rest of her life because he did. How do you feel about that? And at that point, Joe Biden should resign and at the very least spend the rest of his life trying to repair his own children who need it badly. And the second point to make is that Biden is using the FBI as his personal secret police, dispatching them forward to crush and intimidate and prosecute people who get in his way or his family's way. Maybe that's not surprising from a guy who spent his entire life living off taxpayers. He believes he owns the Department of Justice, but he doesn't. And the fact he's behaving as if he does is scary as hell.
There you have it, Tucker Carlson, just laying it out there for you. Yeah, no, he's not a family guy, okay? This latest dispatch of Joe just loves his son talking point, this all started coming out after the Wednesday court debacle. Hunter was expected to plead guilty on these tax crimes charges as part of the sweetheart deal. His father and the DOJ cut for him, and he was expected to take that sweetheart deal. And that sweetheart deal actually included immunity from all future charges of all other crimes. And the judge said, no, absolutely not. That is not happening. So Hunter had to plead not guilty as a result of not getting that sweetheart deal. So the corporate journalismers, they have yet to start writing the hit pieces on the judge. I was looking for those yesterday. I was like, likely they're going to say a Trump-backed judge or something like that. And I was waiting for it, but I haven't seen it yet. Jen Psaki, she went from NBC News to the Obama administration to CNN to the Biden administration, then back to MSNBC. It's a good thing she's not a Republican, folks, because if she were, people might think that that's a bit unethical to bounce back and forth between these corporate media positions and her role in government. All right, I do have to take a break. We are going to come back. I have a few things I want to run through. Illinois, we're getting hit with this contract. I know a lot of you have been asking about the AFSCME contract. Now, that's all state workers, state union. This is a public union. And Illinois was hit with another costly contract. How much is it going to cost you? Find out on the other side of this break. You're listening to The Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Now, we will be talking a little bit about Tafari Campbell. So Tafari Campbell went out there. He's this big man, big man. And he was the personal chef to the Obamas. So he was a personal chef back in the White House. And then after Obama left the White House in 2017, he decided to come on as their personal chef at Martha's Vineyard, where they have like a $12 million home. It's insane. These elitists are wild. But yes, so he went out there on a paddleboard and he was just visiting Martha's Vineyard. He doesn't live there. And he went out there and drowned although it appears that he swam like regularly, right? He on his social media was in a pool. There was him swimming in like this Olympic style pool. I don't think he was a professional swimmer. However, he seemed to be pretty good at swimming. And he went out there without a life jacket. He was seen with another paddleboarder out there. This paddleboarder was dressed in black. Now, what the police are doing are they are withholding the name of that paddleboarder who was out there with him. Don't know why. Now, I find it interesting that the Obamas were not there, Michelle and Barack. However, it's not been yet confirmed that their daughters weren't there at the residence on Martha's Vineyard. And where he launched from, well, where he was expected or like suspected to be launched from, allegedly, he launched from a paddleboard launch, which was like a couple like miles away from the Martha Vineyard home of Barack Obama. So, yeah, this is just a very eerie, very suspicious story. Requests were made to Obama's office regarding the occupants in the residence at the time Campbell's accidents occurred. Now, they were in town. Barack Obama and Michelle were both in town, but they weren't home. Now, it remains unclear if their daughters were home. So, and we don't know who that paddleboarder was who was also with him. He was 45. He was not alone in the water. This was a terrible incident. And I don't know. It's piquing the curiosity of the public for sure. And what's even more disturbing is this phone call that was placed to the police and how it was absent from the official logs. So there was obviously a distress call to 911. And for some reason, the call remains absent from the official logs. However, all of the other calls they got that night were documented, um, making this omission of this call from the official record even more perplexing. I would also like to note that Campbell's death very, very much is parallel with that of a Walter Sheep. Sheep. He's the executive chef, or was the executive chef, at the White House for 11 years under both Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. He also drowned in 2015 while he was hiking in New Mexico. So I don't know, just all very suspicious, very sus. I don't like this story because I have a feeling that this story is going to end very abruptly, much like the Hammer story and Nancy Pelosi's husband. Um, I have a feeling we're not going to get to the bottom of it, and it's very sad because Tafari Campbell, he deserves justice. Um, There right away, the police have said that there was no foul play. However, I find it odd that this man drowned. It was like an 8-foot pond, which is possible, right? 8 feet. He wasn't 8 feet tall, right? He couldn't stand in it. But I just find it very peculiar. Let me know what you think about the story in the comments if you're watching. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Like, love, follow, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Subscribing always helps. We will be getting into this Illinois contract here coming up next. This state workers, I mean, there are two classes of workers in Illinois, and there's a big divide here. This contract is the perfect example of the divide between these two classes of workers in the state of Illinois. We have government employees with guaranteed multi-year benefits, and we have the ordinary Illinoisans who get no such guarantees and are forced to pay for benefits. Okay, so here we have this new contract, and it's going to cost us, the state, $625 million over the next 4 years. Just 4 years. It's a 4-year contract. The contract guarantees the union's 35,000 workers raises of at least 19% over the next 4 years. It doesn't matter how well they do. It doesn't matter what they do. They're going to get these raises no matter what. The contract also provides pay grade upgrades for thousands of workers, and it keeps healthcare costs at near 20-year lows. It also extends parental leave to 12 weeks, and it relaxes drug testing and disciplinary rules. Probably the most suspicious story in my lifetime. Uh, what is going on? Why is the call not there on the official police log? Police call log for Tafari Campbell's drowning at the Obama estate was left blank. Now the cops are refusing to say who the second paddleboarder was, they saw him out there with him. They saw the paddleboarder out there with Tafari, who was the personal chef to Obama. We don't know who was at the residence at the time. The Obama residence, people have reached out to Obama to see, hey, who was at the residence at the time of Tafari's death, and they have not gotten back. So requests were made to his office regarding the occupants of the residence when his accident had occurred. The police have said that there's no foul play, but this is very suspicious. Why would there not be an official call log for this 911 call that was placed at about 7:46 p.m., alerting authorities that this fellow Tafari Campbell had fallen into the water? So they took it off. They omitted it because guess what? What's even more perplexing is that there were more calls placed that night, and those were all logged. The only call missing is this one regarding Tafari Campbell. So we're going to get into that story a bit later. I'll tell you what I know. Seems like it's still up in the air. I'm sure this story is going to go away faster than the Nancy Pelosi husband hammer story, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what comes of this. But I do think that Tafari Campbell deserves some sort of justice. He deserves a full investigation. And that call should have been placed on that call log officially. 309-451-9299. You can always text into the show, be a part of the show. Today is National Talk in an Elevator Day, a good day to strike up a conversation with a stranger. Are you the kind of person who talks to strangers in the elevator, or do you look down? Do you not engage? Let me know what you think. Or let me know what you do in the elevator on our text line 309-451-9299. Now I talk to the person in the elevator. I make it a point to first I try like a compliment, to try to ease into a conversation. You try a compliment, hey, I like your shoes, something like that, and then you can kind of ease yourself into a conversation that way. It's very hard to have conversations with strangers nowadays, though, because everybody is looking down at their phone. Today is also National Milk Chocolate Day, a good day for some chocolate. Definitely not hot chocolate. It's a bit warm out there for some of that. Maybe some chocolate milk. I don't even know. Like milk on a hot day doesn't sound great either. So maybe chocolate ice cream. Chocolate ice cream sounds like a good choice for 113 heat index. We are in a heat advisory until 8 o'clock tonight. Also, today is National Chicken Wing Day. How do you take your wings? I like the flats. I'm not much of a barbecue person. I like as spicy as they could possibly get, as hot as they possibly could get. Whatever sauce that is, I don't care if it's hot buffalo, whatever the hot sauce is, put it on there. And I like all flats. Those are pretty good. 54% of people say chicken wings are their favorite casual dining appetizer. Not me. I don't like having this out. I like having it at home, like maybe for race day. I watch Formula One a lot. I'm a big race fan. NASCAR, right? That's the only sport I watch, Formula One. And that's all I have really time for. But I eat the chicken wings at home. I don't like getting them out to dinner while I'm out at dinner because then it's like all messy and it's like ugh. 73% of people say it's perfectly appropriate to lick your fingers if you have chicken wings. I don't know how you don't. I don't think I do. I definitely use a bunch of napkins, but it doesn't bother me all that much. It's tough. It's tough to eat chicken wings. 79% of people say that they eat every bit of meat off of the bones. Duh. If you don't eat all of the meat off the bones, then what are you even doing? More people, about 33%, prefer boneless as opposed to bone in. Me, I like bone in. Keeps the chicken way more moist, I think. Boneless chicken wings are just chicken nuggets. Right? And at that point, you can't call them chicken wings. 55% of people say wings are better deep fried than grilled. I agree. 58% of people eat celery that come on the side with the chicken wings. If you get the chicken wings out at like a sports bar or something, you get the celery on the side. Yes, I eat the celery. It's good for you. And it's got a lot of water in it. And sometimes you need it to cool off your mouth. I like blue cheese. I'm a Midwest gal. I've always loved blue cheese. I don't I'm not against ranch. Ranch is great. But I'm definitely more blue cheese when it comes to um, my chicken wings. Now, because today is National Chicken Wing. Oh, Saturday. It's not today. Saturday is National Chicken Wing. So that's tomorrow, folks. I'm jumping ahead of myself. But in spirit of Saturday's National Chicken Wing Day, a bunch of chains are doing some sort of discounted wings. So Buffalo Wild Wings, they're offering 6 free wings with any $10 purchase. It's pretty cool. Fat Burger and Buffalo's Express. I've never heard of that. That's probably like not in Illinois. They're offering like a 3-piece order of wings with the purchase of any Fat Burger meal. So that's pretty cool. Hooters, you're getting buy 10 and you get 10 free. So that's pretty cool. Wingstop is giving away 5 free wings if you use the code FREEWINGS at checkout on the wingstop.com or via the app. Zaxby's. Now, that's not around here in the Midwest. I do love Zaxby's, but that's Southern food. Zaxby's customers can buy 10 additional traditional wings and then they get 10 free, but only if they order through the app or online. Zaxby's. Yeah, I like Zaxby's. I wish we had some here. We do have Wingstop. Hooters, I know that we have. I don't know if we have one around here locally. I don't think so. And Buffalo Wild Wings. I know that we have a Wingstop here, right? Actually, across the street from the station. It's Friday. It's Friday, and I have so much to get to today. Oh gosh, what do we have on on the show? We have this sexual assault survivor. This is just gut-wrenching testimony from a sexual assault of a survivor who had to change in front of Leah Thomas, this Will Thomas guy. She was his teammate, and she's testifying before Congress about how she was forced to change in front of Will with full male genitalia still intact and how uncomfortable she was by that. And there's this bombshell I've got to tell you about. Plus, we are going to get into that conversation about how suspicious this story is getting surrounding Tafari Campbell's death. Was the personal chef to Barack Obama's family, and he drowned this week. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Don't get chicken wing. That's bad. Duff's wings are the best, cat. Mad chatter. I don't know. I've never had Duff's wings. I really do like Zaxby's wings. Wingstop, I'm not too big of a fan of. They're kind of dry. Honestly, I like making my own. I pat them dry, salt them up a bit, and then I bake them, and they're just as good as deep fried. And I toss them in my favorite sauce, which is like a mango habanero type sauce. So I buy that. I think I just buy the Buffalo Wild Wings one. I used to work at Buffalo Wild Wings, so had a lot of wings back in the day when I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings in my college days. Now when we get back here, we are going to be talking about the sexual assault survivor, Leah Thomas, and Leah Thomas' teammate. She testifies before Congress, and oh man, she tells them something very personal. And it doesn't matter what um, people say about gender affirming care. It doesn't matter what people say about these policies that favor Will Thomas or Leah Thomas over Paula, who is this woman who's testifying before Congress. It doesn't matter, because Democrats, what they're going to do is distort those criticisms, and they're going to change those criticisms to paint you as some sort of bigot. And they're going to refuse to talk to anyone who disagrees with them. They don't care about you. They don't care about changing their mind. They don't care about these brave girls who are going before Congress and testifying how this makes them feel. The fact that they have transgender people inside their private spaces. So, I would love to see these girls go up to some of these Democrats in Congress, maybe even Joe Biden himself, if he's ever allowed to be out in public. But I'd love to see some of these girls go up and talk to them. And I'd love to see these Democrats, and possibly even Joe Biden, tell these victims to their face that they're bigots, and that they're the ones who are wrong here, and that they're the ones with the mentally ill problems. Um, so we are going to be talking about that here, and then Tafari, but also I do want to talk about this Fox 5 Atlanta giving this ultimatum. It was a quote unquote polite ultimatum to remove this race riot clip from Jason Aldean's small town videos. There was a lot of talk yesterday. If Jason Aldean was the guy, or his team, they came to the decision to edit the clip. I don't think he bent the knee, folks. They threatened him with some sort of lawsuit over copyright, which I had predicted. And they gave him a polite ultimatum if they didn't remove 6 seconds from their music video, that they were going to come down on him legally. So, I mean, what, 6 seconds, right? If to avoid all kinds of lawsuits over copyright. Now, I don't understand how this didn't fall under fair use, and how Fox 5 out of Atlanta even um, can argue that this was copyright, because this was news footage. This was broadcasted into all of our homes. It was when George Floyd uh, died, and died tragically. It's sad when people die of fentanyl overdoses. He was a scumbag, and he brought it on himself. But he died from a fentanyl overdose. That's very clear from the autopsy. There was no indication of severe injuries that led to his death. There was no blunt force trauma. There was no he didn't die of asphyxiation. There was just the fentanyl in his system, and that caused all kinds of race riots, right? We remember in 2020 where people were burning down Targets in the name of George Floyd, but we saw the footage. It was all broadcasted. This was supposed to fall under fair use. I don't even know why the production company for Jason Aldean reached out for permission to use it. I think that was very smart, and they were covering their bases, I guess. I don't know, because I don't live in that world of production, and I would have no idea what you can and can't use in a music video. I just know that you can use news footage, 6 seconds worth of news footage. I think you can use that. It's called fair use. But anyway, so the production company, they reached out to Fox 5 beforehand, and they had asked if they could use the video, and they said yes. But then they came back later and said, "Whoa, no, we don't want you to use it anymore," after the video came out. So there was just this big fight, and then they had given a polite ultimatum. That's what they described to TMZ. They said, "We gave a polite ultimatum that they remove the video to avoid any kind of legal action." The most important thing here to recognize is that this was not Jason Aldean bending the knee. Okay. And I think that the left, Washington Post journalismers, they wanted to pit us all against Jason Aldean and try to make us think that they're that he was bending the knee and that he was going against his own principles. This is just what the left does. Fox gives a polite ultimatum to remove this race riot clip from Jason Aldean's small town video. Then a little bit later, we'll talk about the Trump campaign clapping back at Joe Biden and the DOJ after these latest charges in Mar-a-Lago over the seized documents case. And then we are going to be talking about Illinois being hit with another costly state workers contract. It's the AFSCME contract. This is one of the largest public state unions in Illinois, 35,000 workers, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's costing you a lot of money. And, there's two classes of Illinois workers, and there's a big divide between these two. We have the ordinary workers and we have the government employees. So we're going to get into all of that here on the Morning Buzz. Before I took the break, I said that we were in the 7 o'clock hour. I am going to get to this story. The police call log of Tafari Campbell's drowning at the Obama estate. It was left blank, the call log. So the emergency call that was placed about Tafari Campbell drowning out there with another paddleboarder at this Martha's Vineyard, the call that was placed, the emergency call, wiped from the call log. But all the other calls that were placed that night were added to the official call log. And then get this, why are the cops refusing to say who that second paddleboarder was out there with Tafari at the time of his death? All very suspicious. We are going to be getting to this as well. Tragic, sad, it's tough testimony to get through, but we're going to get through it together. Sexual assault survivor and a Leah Thomas teammate testifying about being forced to have to undress in front of Will Thomas, Leah Thomas, that swimmer. And I mean, he's got full genitalia, and she talks about how uncomfortable that makes her before Congress. We're going to get to all of that here on the Morning Buzz. Let's first start with the Jason Aldean clip being edited of the news footage out of the music video. So there was news broke that yesterday, right, that 6 seconds of this news footage from the 2020 Democrat Party riots. That's what they were, the George Floyd riots, because he overdosed on fentanyl. They started race riots. They burned down Targets. We remember this back in 2020. And there was some news that broke that there was like 6 seconds that were edited out of that Jason Aldean video. It's called Try That in a Small Town. If you haven't heard the song, look it up today. It's great. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but the people who supported the Democrat Party riots in 2020, they felt that Jason Aldean's video was very insensitive. I don't know if you heard about it, but the left was having a complete meltdown over this music video. And I had guessed yesterday, I said, it's probably some sort of copyright thing. That's why the 6 seconds was removed from the video. I thought YouTube might have done it. Now, Fox 5 Atlanta, where the video footage came from within the music video, put a copyright claim about the news clip there. So the company put in a copyright claim. So according to TMZ, I was right. It was about copyright. It wasn't YouTube that removed it, but it was Jason Aldean's team. But you have to listen, okay? It's not Jason Aldean bending the knee. This is just a smart move. It's 6 seconds, folks. We're talking about 6 seconds. Portions of a 6-second Fox 5 Atlanta news clip appeared in the original music video twice. At one point, it was projected in the video onto the exterior wall of the Tennessee County Courthouse. They said that because he was singing in front of the Tennessee County Courthouse, that was like racist somehow. It's really funny because the Hannah Montana movie also featured that courthouse. And back then, when the Hannah Montana movie featured the courthouse, they didn't say that it was racist, but because he's singing about real issues and about crime, and about small towns and how you won't put up with that crime, Apparently it's racist. So the video production company, they reached out actually to Fox 5 Atlanta to use that footage, to use the news footage, and Fox asked to see a copy of the lyrics. So the production company sent a link to the song instead. They sent the entire song. And at the time, I'm guessing whoever listened to the song didn't find anything wrong with it, because this is key. There is nothing wrong with the lyrics of this song. They are not racist. They are not bigoted. They're not, no, like there's nothing wrong with the lyrics of Try That in a Small Town. And at the time, they said, yep, you're good to go. Here's your footage. And it wasn't until the video came out that someone on Twitter, got their feelings hurt. The leftists, until all of the leftist outrage, one thing led to another. And we have gun control Karen, Sharon Watts from CMT. They got the video removed from the country music TV, Paramount, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it barely plays videos anyway. But they removed the video, and that caused Jason Aldean's song to see a 999 increase in plays, and shoot up to number 2 on Billboard Hot 100. This is a very popular song now. So the removal kind of had the opposite effect, I think, because really what it did was just make Jason Aldean's song skyrocket. Anyway, so the video comes out. There's all this outrage. His song gets very popular. And then we have Fox reaching out to the production company and asking them to remove the video to avoid any legal action. So they tell TMZ that this was a, quote, polite ultimatum, and the production company complied. So Jason Aldean's production company of that video complied and removed these 6 seconds. Now, the new video has been up for a week, with the 6 seconds edited out before these journalismers at Washington Post, the journalismers, they were analyzing this video with a magnifying glass, because I don't know about you, but I can't tell the difference between the original and the 6 seconds edited out. The important thing is to note that Jason Aldean didn't bend the knee. Okay, this was Fox 5. This is their fault. They were politely giving them an ultimatum. Remove the 6 seconds from the video or we'll sue you. And I get, he could have probably, won that because they had asked for permission beforehand and they got permission to use that video. They probably could have fought it out in court, but come on. I mean, this would have just been a headache, right? And the important thing is that Jason Aldean is a friend, and what these Washington Post journalismers were trying to do, they were trying to pit us against Jason Aldean and trying to make us think that he was the reason, he bent the knee somehow and edited the video. Look, the original video is still all over the internet, and if you can spot the 6 seconds, you're much more of an eagle eye than I am. I can't tell the difference. 309-451-9299. I'm glad I got through that story. We are going to be back. Let's talk about deranged Jack Smith. He's got 40 charges against Donald Trump. That's insane. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump and how the DOJ is seeking to eliminate him from the 2024 ballot. Plus, I do have more stories. Sexual assault survivor testifying before Congress about Leah Thomas, the teammate. She was a teammate of Leah Thomas. And she talks about how she was forced to change in front of Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas, who has full male genitalia. And she gives a bit of a personal story. Then a little bit later, the police call log erased for Tafari Campbell's drowning. At the Obama estate, and he was a personal chef to Obama. Very suspicious. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning into the live stream. I so do appreciate it. I do have something planned for the 8 o'clock hour. Um, I just wanted to let you guys know that Illinois is broke and we are not going to see anything change if this division between these two classes of workers isn't like at least slimmed down a bit. Like there is a huge barrier between just ordinary Illinois workers and government employees when it comes to um, like benefits, pay. So there was a contract for the AFSCME, and this new contract basically guarantees automatic raises, at least 19% each year, or a compound increase of 19%. So each year it goes up, like, so July 2023, a 4% raise, January 2023, a 2.5% raise, July 2024, 4% raise. Then we have July 25th, or July 2025, 3.9% raise. Like this is, they've baked it into the cake where you are going to get a raise no matter what. Doesn't matter your work performance, nothing. You just get these raises no matter what. It is a guaranteed multi-year benefit. Um, and ordinary Illinoisans, we're forced to pay for our benefits. We're forced um, to work for way, way below what these guys work. I mean, they have received the ninth highest average salary of any state worker in 2021, the state of Illinois. Illinois state workers, now that's your um, administrators, that's your university employees, that's your union workers. Those are the people that I'm talking about here, plus the people within the AFSCME. This is the union, one of the largest state unions, if not the largest. So he struck a deal. He recently agreed, Governor JB Jellybean agreed to this 4-year contract that will um, increase the state's costs by $625 million over the next 4 years. This is very costly. Um, and it's on your dime because we pay the state workers. I mean, the state makes money, doesn't make money in any kind of way. They take money from you, the taxpayer. And the contract, it guarantees 35,000 workers raises of at least 19% over the next 4 years, and it provides pay upgrades for thousands of workers. So some workers, I guess, are going to get these pay upgrades, and it keeps their healthcare costs at near 20-year lows. Extended paid paternal leave for 12 weeks, relaxes drug testing, which is just, I mean, icing on the cake. Like, here you've baked the cake, and then to put the cherry on top of the cake, you say, you know what? And we're going to relax the drug testing. So you can show up high at work, you're a state worker and you show up high, and it's like, oh, yeah, you're not going to be disciplined. Oh, and you want $66,000 a year um, plus all of these benefits? Yeah, okay. The Illinois state worker salaries have consistently ranked among the nation's top 10 since 2015. Contrast that with the private sector, where only now our wages here in the state of Illinois are starting to catch up with inflation. As the Wall Street Journal reports here, while improved for the past 2 years, inflation adjusted wage growth remains below the trend in the 5 years before the pandemic. So we are nowhere near what we should be when it comes to wages for ordinary Illinois workers. Illinois will never be fixed. We will never not be broke as long as there's this massive divide between Illinois state workers, the government employees, and ordinary Illinois workers. There's just never going to be growth, economic growth here in the state of Illinois. So I've got that story here coming up for us in just a little bit. Um, mm, mm, mm. I'm going to get to some of your texts. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. You can text in to the show at 309-451-9299. We are going to be talking about Leah Thomas and his male genitalia. And oh, yes, that is what we're talking about in the 7 o'clock hour. I know, I'm sorry. But this sexual assault survivor and Leah Thomas teammate, she's testifying before Congress. And I just think that it's important that we hear her out and listen to what she has to say. Because we know that the Democrat Party is not going to listen. Joe Biden is not going to listen to people like Paula. That's her name. And she was the teammate to Leah Thomas, and she was forced to change in front of him. And these Democrats who support these transgender bathroom policies, they favor people like Will Thomas over Paula, and they are going to distort and they're going to manipulate the criticisms coming from people like Paula because it serves their politics, and they're going to refuse to talk to anybody who disagrees with those policies because they're evil. I mean that like the fact that you won't hear out Paula and just listen to her story. I would love to see people like Joe Biden, these Democrats, on camera explaining to these victims and explaining to their faces uh, how they think that these policies are good and how they think that these victims are the ones in the wrong here. So we are going to be getting to that here in just a little bit. Now, Governor J.B. Pritzker, I hate Illinois. Illinois is not going to be fixed as long as there is a divide between Illinois' two classes of workers. This divide is continuing to grow. It's getting bigger and bigger. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he recently agreed, and this is according to Wire Points, to a new 4-year contract with the Illinois AFSCME. Now, this is one of the largest state worker unions, if not the largest. And what this is going to cost you is $625 million over the next 4 years. This contract guarantees the union's 35,000 workers raises of at least 19% over the past or next 4 years. They give pay upgrades. They get healthcare costs at record 20-year lows. We have extended parental leave extended to 12 weeks. They're relaxing drug testing and disciplinary rules. So and it's guaranteed pay raises over the next 4 years. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do, like your performance, that doesn't matter. You're just going to automatically get raises. I've got that story here coming up next on the Buzz. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Like I said, we will get into that Tafari Campbell story. Very suspicious. This paddleboarder went out there and he didn't have a life vest. He's 45 years old. Clearly was a good swimmer. Like, he was a decent swimmer. He, on his social media, was swimming in this Olympic style pool. He was doing backstrokes, and I don't think he was like a professional swimmer, but still, like, he drowned. And he went out there with a life vest, and then he was out there with another person, another paddleboarder. And the cops are not, they're refusing to release the name of that paddleboarder. Plus, the Obama office has yet to come out and say who was at the residence at the time. So I guess they were all in town. The daughters were in town. Brock and Michelle were in town, but Brock and Michelle weren't at the residence. Now, their daughters, it has not yet been confirmed if they were at the residence at the time of Tafari's death. So we've got so many questions. This is a very suspicious story. Not to mention, there was a chef executive who served under George W. Bush and Bill Clinton for 11 plus years, and he died in a very similar way, drowning while he was hiking in the mountains. I don't know. It's just very peculiar that drowning. It's just odd. So I've got that story. Here we go. It's very frustrating. Every time I turn on the TV news, it's about how they're going to arrest Trump or Biden kid for something. They never do, and they never will. Yeah, so I like that, Mad Chatter. It's like, my gosh, like, there's so many other things we should be talking about, like, oh, I don't know, the possibility of nuclear war with, Russia, right? There's so many other things that we should be talking about, and here we are talking about how the walls are closing in on Trump. The bottom line is if people broke the law, they need to be in prison. I've gone through multiple times how Donald Trump, at least in the classified documents case, I don't believe that he broke the law. There is legal precedents, I guess. Let's call it that. Judicial watch. There was a uh, case with Bill Clinton about the sock drawer. And when it comes to these classified documents, I think that we can look to that case. It talks about the Presidential Records Act and how the president can deem something unclassified just by the action of taking it. Look up that case. I think it's Judicial Watch. They wanted the recordings that Bill Clinton hid in his sock drawer, and they said that he wasn't allowed to take them, but at the end of the day, the judge said, you know what? No, the president can do this because of the Presidential Records Act. So we have court precedents already uh, when it comes to this classified document thing. So I don't know why we're trying to arrest Donald Trump over it. They've got all kinds of charges against him. 40. When are we going to see charges for Joe Biden in this case? Because he also had classified documents, but he wasn't charged with diddly squat. When are we going to see Hunter Biden, the kid, right? The Biden kid, be in prison for his crimes? If he was such a private citizen, then he should be in jail. I mean, he's got countless video, like it's just video evidence of him snorting cocaine. Like that right there would get me in boatloads of trouble. And he lied on a gun application form. Like, come on, man. This is like if you were a private citizen, you would not be walking around today, man. So yeah, I don't know why we continue to talk about it. There's very simple solutions to these problems. One, Trump should have never been charged. He should never been indicted. These indictment charges doesn't make any sense. We have court precedent that says he did nothing wrong via the Presidential Records Act. Um, so I've gone through that multiple times here. I'm not going to go through it again today. But uh, today I will go through this one charge where they're saying that he destroyed surveillance footage. It's just more and more. They're just piling on. Who cares about the video? I don't. I appreciate the challenge being put out um, to the nuts. Did Jason do blackface in 2015? Not that I'm aware of, man. Yeah, I the video is great. I think that the video is great. I don't know why Fox 5 went to the extent of, coming back on their word. Like they were told, "Hey, um we're going to be using some of this video. Is that okay?" And then they signed off on it and they said, "Yeah, that's totally fine," after the production company sent back the lyrics to the video or sent back the link to the song. And they didn't say anything about it then. But then when the video came out and all the controversy happened surrounding the song, that's when Fox 5 Atlanta wanted the video edited. So it was a copyright thing. They said that, "Hey, if you don't edit this 6 seconds out of your video, then we're going to come down on you with legal action." And Jason Aldean's production company was just like, "Okay, sure, we'll edit out 6 seconds. You nut. You like what? Uh, why 6 seconds? Like I don't understand it. These people are relentless. The Fox 5 Atlanta is to blame here, not Jason Aldean. He didn't bend the knee. It was just probably easier um, to edit the video. All right, we're gonna be back here in just a sec.
So loyal to people. Maybe I'm loyal to a fault, but I'm so loyal to people that when somebody's slightly disloyal to me, I look upon it as a great act of horror.
And how are you different than you were 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, I used to say, and in fact, I think I said in my first book that, and maybe this was foolish, but I really meant it, that someday I'd like to maybe lose everything for a period of time to see who's loyal and who's not loyal. And frankly, I found out a lot of things.
Did you find out who's loyal and not loyal?
I tell you what, and you can't guess it. You can't predict it. You think certain people would be loyal no matter what, and it turns out that they're not. And you just can't predict it. It's very difficult.
And that
I think I would have treated people differently. I think that, some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people that I think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. I love getting even with people, but I will.
Slow up. You love getting even.
Oh, absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye. You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do. But anyway, but
getting even. I can't wait for Revenge Trump to come back. And this just in. Okay, so Trump campaign clapping back at Joe Biden and Joe Biden's DOJ after these latest charges in Mar-a-Lago in this seized documents case. We're going to get to that here coming up in just a bit. These new charges include allegations that Trump sought to destroy surveillance footage at Mar-a-Lago. Okay. We're going to dig through that later. Illinois hit with another costly SCME contract. So this is one of these big state public unions. It's going to cost you like $625 million to give these people all kinds of money. And in fact, this contract actually relaxes drug testing. So what? You can show up to work high as a state worker, get paid all this money on my dime. Yeah. So Governor J.B. Pritzker Jellybean, he recently agreed to this new 4-year contract that's reportedly going to increase state cost by $625 million over the next 4 years. They've baked into the cake where these 35,000 state workers are going to be getting pay raises each and every single year. These are pay upgrades, I guess, and they're guaranteed multi-year pay raises, benefits. There's 2 classes of workers here in the state of Illinois. There's government employees, and then there's ordinary Illinoisans like me who get no such guarantees and are forced to pay for these said benefits. And as long as there's this divide in this state between these 2 classes of workers, our problems are never going to be fixed. Our economic downfall is going to continue. And I mean, there is going to be this divide that continues to grow. Now, before I get into Donald Trump here, one thing I wanted to talk about was this sexual assault victim. So, she is a former Leah Thomas teammate, and she's stepped forward about the gaslighting their school put them through. So Leah, as you know, the NCAA champion female swimmer, who, as Will Thomas, was at best mediocre. Like, he sucked as a man, so he decided to jump into the female sport and dominate. He transitioned to a she, and Leah's new actual female teammates were told that they had to be okay with it and that they were the ones who had mental problems if they weren't okay with Leah being on their team. So one of the teammates, her name is Paula. She was the anonymous teammate on the documentary movie. It was called What is a Woman? Here's what her interview sounded like in the documentary as an anonymous teammate. Here we go.
Doesn't feel as good anymore because it feels tainted. There was a lot of things you couldn't talk about that were very concerning, like a locker room situation. If you even brought up concerns about it, you were transphobic. If you even bring up the fact that Leah swimming might not be fair, you were immediately shut down as being called a hateful person or transphobic.
But there's never any conversation. The coaches don't sit everyone down and acknowledge what everyone's really upset about.
So Penn actually brought in people high up in the athletic department to talk to us. They brought in someone from like the LGBTQ center. They brought in someone from the psychological services.
So you're upset about what's happening And so you need psychological help.
Yeah. And they told us in this meeting, they said, look, we understand there's an array of emotions, but Leah's swimming is a non-negotiable. However, we can help you make that okay. That's what we're here for.
So there you have it, folks. That's when she was anonymous. Now she's testifying before Congress. She testified yesterday. And here's what she said in the hearing. Here we go.
In the presence of Leah, a 6'4" tall biological male, fully intact with male genitalia, 18 times per week. Some girls opted to change in bathroom stalls, and others used the family bathroom to avoid this. When we tried to voice our concerns to the athletic department, we were told that Leah's swimming and being in our locker room was a non-negotiable, and we were offered psychological services to attempt to re-educate us to become comfortable with the idea of undressing in front of a male. To sum up the university's response, we, the women, were the problem, not the victims. We were expected to conform, to move over, and shut up. Our feelings didn't matter. The university was gaslighting and fear-mongering women to validate the feelings and identity of a male.
So there you have it. And this was, a bombshell. She bravely just dropped this bombshell about why this is such a personal issue for her. Take a listen. Here we go.
Of free speech. Today, any discussion maintaining the sanctity of women's spaces is labeled transphobic, bigoted, and hateful. What's bigoted and hateful is the discrimination against women and the efforts to erase women and our equal opportunities, dignity, and safe spaces. One might ask, why do I speak so passionately about issues that seem hypothetical, or some may perceive as only impacting a small number of women? This is not hypothetical. This is real. I know women who have lost roster spots and spots on the podium. I know of women with sexual trauma who are adversely impacted by having biological males in their locker room without their consent. I know this because I am one of these women. I was sexually assaulted on June 3rd of 2016. I was only 16 years old. I was able to forgive my attacker, but violence against women still exists. Let us not forget the viral Me Too movement that empowered female victims to speak up. It cast a spotlight on the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and abuse, including in scholarly and educational institutions.
So there you have it. She drops this bombshell bravely. That's very tough to do. And these hearings don't go anywhere. That's my issue with this. The Democrats who support these policies, they're going to favor Will Thomas over Paula any day of the week. And they're going to willfully distort the criticisms of these policies. And they're going to refuse to talk to anybody who disagrees with them. They don't care what Paula has to say. They're not even going to listen. These brave girls need to go right up to these elected officials and Joe Biden himself, if he's ever allowed to be out in public. They need to go right up to them, get in their faces, and I want to get these Democrats on camera explaining to these victims faces that the victims are the ones who are wrong here. The victims are the ones with the mental problems. Do want to shift gears. Let's talk about Donald Trump, the campaign clapping back at Joe Biden and the DOJ. They've got these latest charges here. Now, deranged Jack Smith knows that they have no case and is casting about for any way out of to try to salvage this illegal witch hunt. So this is what Donald Trump is saying on Truth Social. There was a statement that was released. They say this is nothing more than a continued desperate flailing attempt by the Biden crime family and their Department of Justice to harass Donald Trump and those around him. This is a statement that the team released. Now, they released these because Jack Smith has brought about these charges against not only Trump, but also a maintenance staff member They're trying to get Donald Trump off of the ballot for 2024. That's what the DOJ is trying to do. These new charges allege that Trump sought to destroy surveillance footage at Mar-a-Lago after a subpoena was issued by the DOJ for Donald Trump to turn over all of these classified documents. I've gone through it multiple times. The Presidential Records Act, look up the case with Bill Clinton in the sock drawer. There's court precedent here that says that Donald Trump he unclassified those documents in the act of taking those documents. The president deems things classified. He is the original classification authority. Look up that case. There's court precedent. But Joe Biden has been found, here's my point here, in possession of countless numbers of classified documents, though it doesn't appear to be really a concern for the DOJ. The DOJ that's headed up by Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Now we've got Jack Smith, and this is why Donald Trump calls this guy deranged in this Truth Social post. He says he knows he has nothing. He knows he has no case, and this is just yet another charge that he's trying to use against me to some sort of kind of salvage his way through this illegal witch hunt. That's what Donald is saying. And I can't believe this number, 40 charges against Trump in this one case. In addition to these federal charges he's facing, Espionage Act, he was not in violation of the Espionage Act. You have to prove intent here. Donald Trump did not intend to harm the United States in any kind of way or compromise the United States, and there has been no proof of that. So he was not in violation of the Espionage Act, but they're looking to indict him over things like January 6th. There's 31 counts, felony of falsification of business document charges in New York. There's another indictment there. There's a Fulton County, Georgia indictment that appears to be gearing up a charge over the aftermath of the 2020 election, where Donald Trump, he had used all of his legal rights to pursue some lawsuits to try to verify the results of the election in this key battleground state. So it's like, come on. I mean, these charges are a witch hunt. This is an attempt from Joe Biden, who is also facing corruption charges and corruption allegations of corruption in Congress before the Oversight Committee. They're accusing him of corruption. He's possibly facing an impeachment. What he's trying to do is eliminate his main political opponent using the DOJ. And it's just sad. Before we take the break, one thing I wanted to get to today was the police call log for Tafari Campbell. He's drowned in the Obama estate. He was paddleboarding, and the call log was left blank. So there was an emergency call placed after somebody saw Tafari out there struggling. The cops refused to say who this second paddleboarder was who was out there with Tafari at the time of his death. Drowning out there at Obama's estate. And what's suspicious about this is that there was a call placed, and there were all kinds of other calls placed to the authorities. There was a 911 call, and all the other calls were logged except this one. So details surrounding the distress call to 911 have emerged, but puzzlingly, the reason for the call remains suspiciously absent from official call log. So Tafari Campbell, he was 45, and he was not alone in the water. There was a second person there, but the police are withholding that information, sparking curiosity and question marks. I mean, I've got question marks all in my head here, folks. Now, this call was placed, the call log, there were other calls that were placed during that night, and they weren't omitted. Just this one call was stricken from the official record. And at the time of the tragic incident, we've got Barack Obama and Michelle. They weren't home, but they were in town. But it remains to be seen if his daughters, if Barack Obama's daughters, who were also in town, were present at the house. So there have been requests made to the Obama office. Hey, was anybody at the house? And nobody's answered, leaving us all in suspense. So I'm in suspense. I want to know. And I want justice to be served if there was any kind of nefarious activity surrounding Campbell's death. Now, the police have said that there wasn't, but come on, folks. No life jacket. He's out there with another person. They're withholding the name of this other person. They removed the official record of this call that was placed, the emergency distress call that was placed. We don't know. And get this, the where they found him. I mean, he was like they traced the origin of the call. Okay, so according to the Post Millennial, the origin of the distress call was at a paddleboard launch site situated about 2 miles away from Obama's residence. So a couple miles away, we had a paddleboard launch, and at that paddleboard launch, that is where the 911 call came in. I don't know, just very suspicious. And I do want to bring this up. Campbell's death is pretty close, pretty dang close to Walter Scheib. He was the executive chef at the White House for 11 years under Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, and he drowned back in 2015 while hiking in New Mexico. And their deaths are very, very similar. So just very suspicious, curious coincidences, I guess. I'll be back here on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Smash that like button. Whatever happened to Me Too? Where are they now? Where are the leftist feminazis? Exactly. Here you have somebody who, was very bravely talking about this incident where she was, 16 years old, and you have this offender. Now, there's something I think in sexual abuse, it's called like reoffending and things like that, where predators, and that's what Leah Thomas is. To be a man and to change in front of women when you have full genitalia, male genitalia, that means you're a predator. I don't care what people say. I don't, and that's predatory. These predators can sense that. So can sense that somebody might have been sexually abused before, or they can sense that you were a victim of some kind. It's called reoffending, or I forget exactly what it's called, but they can sense that about you, these predators. And it's very common for women who go through things like that to be reoffend, like to go through a reoffense, because predators can tell. They can just see it on you. And yeah, that was very brave of her to get out in front of Congress and say, hey, look, there are women who, might be very sensitive to this type of stuff. And the fact that I have to be told that I'm the one in the wrong and that I have mental problems for not wanting to see full-fledged male genitalia while I'm changing. It's just bizarre. And Democrats don't care. They're going to refuse to listen to the other side when it comes to this issue. All right, we are going to be back here coming up in just a little bit. I do want to talk about the MSNBC lady swearing that Joe Biden did nothing wrong, but love Hunter Biden. Okay, so this is one of these talking points, and I'm not shocked because I saw the writing on the wall yesterday when MSNBC, they had some sort of correspondent out there, and she was like, Joe Biden just loves his son. Joe Biden just loves his son. He's such a family man. No, he's not a family man. It's not the shamelessness of the White House using this Joe Biden just loves his son to dismiss any kind of criticism of Hunter Biden's shady business dealings. It's not so much that for me. It's the shamelessness of knowing that they can get away with it on corporate media. So if you were a journalismer, using this defense of Joe Biden just loves his son is garbage, and it's not being challenged by these corporate journalismers. I have Exhibit A here, and I'm going to share it with you. An NBC analyst dropping this Joe Biden just loves his son line on MSNBC with the MSNBC host, who just so happens to be, drumroll please, Jen Psaki. So we have the former analyst, or the former White House press secretary, as the host here in MSNBC. Then we have the Democrat senator, and she is talking with Jen Psaki. And quick reminder, Jen Psaki also would dismiss questions at the podium regarding Hunter Biden and his shady business dealings. That was her job before it was Karen Jean-Pierre's job. And they have an interaction that's just makes me crazy. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. We're going to be back here in about 30 seconds. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. I'm there. I'm also on Twitter. So be sure to follow us on all of our social media and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's Conservative Cat. Go look it up on YouTube. Now, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about MSNBC. This lady swearing that Joe Biden did nothing wrong, but all he does is he just loves Hunter. Okay. He loves Hunter Biden. And this MSNBC lady swears that Joe Biden did nothing wrong in front of, you guessed it, Jen Psaki, so Joe Biden's former spokesman. So yes, Jen Psaki was she's the White House press secretary. Before it was Kieran Jean-Pierre, who is Black and lesbian. Before it was her job to lie up there at the podium and not take questions about Hunter Biden's shady business dealings. It was Jen Psaki's job. Now, here it is. Here's what happened on MSNBC. I'm going to play it here for you. You won't believe it. This is how they're spinning Joe Biden's corruption, Joe Biden covering up for his son and his shady business dealings. Here we go.
Try to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
What accusations and arguments do you think they're going to?
Oh my, you've got to be kidding me. Hunter Biden, he's banged prostitutes on tape, sent his father clips of his homemade pornography. He used his father's political connections as vice president of the United States to get ahead. And look, that's not going to fly with the American people. It just won't. Neither will the talking point of Joe Biden being a family man. That's not going to fly with the American people. How could you guys pitch him as some sort of family man? People who love their families don't reject their grandchildren because of politics. People who love their families don't take showers with their daughters inappropriately. Yes, let's flashback here. Here's Tucker Carlson revealing that Joe Biden weaponized the FBI as his personal secret police to go after Project Veritas journalists who got their hands on a little something called the Ashley Biden Diary. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Else. His behavior as a father is truly dark, even by modern standards. Biden should explain immediately why he inappropriately showered with his own daughter. He should be asked that at his next press availability. His chief of staff, Ron Klain, who runs the country, should be asked, you work for a man who showered with his own daughter and by her own account distorted the rest of her life because he did. How do you feel about that? And at that point, Joe Biden should resign. And at the very least, spend the rest of his life trying to repair his own children who need it badly. And the second point to make.
I love it. Tucker Carlson just exposing that diary. And look, this latest dispatch of Joe just loves his son talking point that had come out Wednesday after this court debacle where Hunter was expected to plead guilty on these tax charges as part of a sweetheart deal that his father and the DOJ cut for him, but he didn't take that deal because the deal included some sort of immunity from being charged for all other crimes. And the judge said, absolutely not. And then Hunter was forced to plead not guilty as a result of not being able to take that sweetheart deal. Now, these corporate journalismers have not started writing hit pieces on this judge yet, but Jen Psaki, that's what really bothers me about this MSNBC clip. It's not the shamelessness really of the White House using the Joe Biden just loves his family bit to dismiss any kind of criticism of Hunter Biden's shady business dealings, right? It's not that. It's the shamelessness of knowing that they can get away with it on corporate media without being challenged. And Jen Psaki, look, she was at NBC News before she was on the Obama administration. Then she was at CNN. Then she went to the Biden administration. Then she went back to MSNBC. And it's a good thing that she's not a Republican, folks, because if she were, people would start to think that this is actually unethical, where you are bouncing back and forth between corporate media and government roles. All right, I am going to take a break. We're going to be back. Scott Robbins, I believe, is out today, so no Scott takes. But I'm going to be back. I have a few stories I want to run through with you, specifically one about Illinois. Illinois recently getting into this contract with these AFSCMEs. It's a union. It's one of the largest state unions here. It's a public union. Governor J.B. Pritzker agreed to a 4-year contract, and this contract sucks. I'll be back on the break or after the break. no Scott Robbins today. He's out, but he'll be back at it tomorrow. Well, today's Friday, so he'll be back at it Monday with me at about 7:35 for Scott's Takes with Scott Robbins. But you've got me here, Kat Peterson, the morning buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. 309-451-9299. You guys can text that number and be a part of the show. Now, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about the MSNBC lady. She's on there with Jen Psaki, and they're talking about how Joe Biden just loves Hunter. Okay, this is why. Like, stop criticizing Hunter. Okay, his shady business dealings. No, it's just Joe Biden, and he would do anything for his son. That's what they're doing. Joe Biden's a family guy. That's their latest bit here. So I just want to point out that Hunter Biden has banked prostitutes. He has sent his father clips of homemade porn. He uses his father's political connections, used them when he was vice president at the time to get ahead in these shady business dealings. And look, that's not going to fly with the American people. Neither is this talking point of Joe being a family man. People know that Joe is not a family man. Yesterday, I talked about his dog Commander. He can't even get his dogs to like him and his dogs to like other people. Like, this guy is not a family man. He takes showers with his daughter, and that's according to the Ashley Biden diary. He doesn't talk to his grandchildren or even acknowledge his own grandchildren. Okay, so, and Jen Psaki, shame on you. Shame on you for letting this slide, this shamelessness of using the Joe Biden just loves his son bit to dismiss any kind of criticism from Hunter Biden's shady business dealings. Shame on you. You should be challenging this, but I guess you have no cojones there, Jen Psaki. I do want to talk about Illinois, this contract. So this is important, folks, because it's going to raise your taxes. Illinois, AFSCME. Say that 10 times fast. It's a state union. It's a big state union. And Governor J.B. Pritzker recently agreed to a 4-year contract that is reportedly going to increase the state costs by 625 million. 625 million over the next 4 years here. So we have the contract, and what this does, it guarantees this state union and their 35,000 workers raises. It guarantees them raises. It doesn't matter what the state workers do. It doesn't matter how they perform. If you are a state worker in the state of Illinois, you are going to get a raise every single year for the next 4 years. And the percentage of these raises over the next 4 years totals to a 19%. And plus, you're going to get all kinds of things like healthcare costs at a near 20-year low, extended paid parental leave for 12 weeks, relaxing of drug testing. So you can show up high to work, get all this money, and there's going to be no disciplinary action against you because they've relaxed disciplinary rules. So all those benefits are on top of this constitutionally guaranteed amendment, Amendment 1. That's what I'm talking about here, folks, in the state of Illinois. It constitutionally guarantees pensions and free retiree health insurance for career state workers. Like, all of that on top of that. The contract here is a perfect example of what I call the Great Divide. And this is from WirePoint's 2 classes of workers here. We've got the government employees. They're guaranteed, and I've got the numbers. I mean, in July of 2023, you're going to see a 4% raise. In January of 2023, you're going to see a 2.5% raise on top of that 4% raise. On July 2024, you're going to see a 4% raise. On July 2025, you're going to see a 3.95% raise. And in July of 2026, you're going to see a 3.5% increase. That's all numbers from wirepoints.org. They did the digging on this. And like I said, 2 classes of workers here in the state of Illinois. You've got the government employees with their guaranteed multi-year benefits, and then you have the commoners, the ordinary Illinoisans, who get no such guarantees, but are forced to pay for the said salary and the said benefits of all of these AFCME state union guys. Now, a couple of things that I need to note. Illinois state workers, these are your administrators. These are your your Illinois State University employees. Look, and I'm not ripping on you. This is not against any one individual. If you work at or work for the state, if you work for this specific union, this contract is bullcrap. Okay, these are your university employees. These are your union workers, including AFSCME workers. Illinois state workers have received the 9th highest average salary of any state worker in 2021. Okay, Illinois state worker salaries have consistently ranked among the nation's top 10 since 2015. Now we contrast that with the private sector, okay? Where our wages, ordinary Illinoisans, our wages are finally starting to catch up with inflation. Finally. Now, this is according to the Wall Street Journal. While improved for the past 2 years, inflation-adjusted wage growth remains below the trend in the 5 years before the pandemic. So we are below what we should be when it comes to wages. Illinois will never be a prosperous state. We're never going to fix our economy if we don't fix this divide between these two classes of workers, the state workers, the government employees, and the ordinary Illinoisans. It's never going to be fixed. All right, do want to shift gears here. You're listening to The Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson. You can always text in, be a part of the show, or you can see me live in the studio. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, I'm there. That's wonderful. Jelly Belly just this week was saying how well Illinois is doing financially. No. We're not doing well financially at all. And in the newscast from Tom Davis, you are going to hear about it. Billions of dollars lost. This IDES scandal. Adam Niemerg, he had asked, look, how much fraud is out there when it comes to the unemployment, overpaying people. I mean, they were paying people, I think, millions of dollars who were deceased, like people, like dead people, they were paying unemployment to. So, yeah, the Illinois Department of Employment Security overpaid benefits by more than $5 billion between 2020 and 2022. Now, that's according to the Illinois Auditor General. This massive number includes cases of fraud and identity theft, as well as mistaken payments. They paid people who weren't even alive, like they're dead people. And this report came out. Like, we are so broken, but like I said, it's never going to get fixed unless we fix the divide between the government employees and the ordinary employees, the ordinary Illinoisans. So, yeah, thanks for the comment. That was a comment from Jennifer. That's wonderful. Jelly Belly just this week was saying how great Illinois is doing. No, we've lost money. I told you about the IDS scandal where we lost billions of dollars and we were paying dead people unemployment. And then I also just told you about how we're going to have $625 million added to state costs to pay all of these state workers for this new 4-year contract that Governor J.B. Pritzker agreed to. So, no, Illinois is not doing great financially. Sorry, Jelly Bean, you're lying. Shifting gears, let's talk about, yeah, we'll do this one. So, the police call log. This is a top story, folks. Top story of today, I think. And I don't want this story to go away. I have a feeling that it will. It will probably go away as fast as the Nancy Pelosi hammer and her husband story. But Tafari Campbell, his drowning at the Obama estate, the call log was erased. It was left blank. And the cops are refusing to say who this second paddleboarder was who was out there at the time Tafari was struggling and died. This is a big deal. I can't. It looks bad. So we've got Tafari Campbell, 45 years old. It looked like he was able to swim and he knew how to swim. He posted things on social media of him swimming in this Olympic kind of looking pool. I don't think he was a professional swimmer. He was out there. It was the Great Edgartown Pond. and this is at Martha's Vineyard. And Martha's Vineyard was rocked by the death of this guy. He was a private chef for the former President Barack Obama, and he drowned earlier this week. Now, there was a 911 call, distress call, and it was made at about 7:46 p.m., alerting authorities that Campbell had fallen into the water and was unable to resurface. And while the call has been recorded by the police, um, the crucial information explaining the reason for the call was left blank in the call logs. So all the other calls that were placed that day received proper documentation. Okay, even after 7:46 p.m. when that distress call was made. This omission of an explanation that's supposed to be right next to the call um, is perplexing. Why was it left blank? Now, according to the Post Millennial, the origin of the call was traced back to a paddleboard launch. It was a paddleboard launch, just 2 miles away from Obama's residence. So at the time, Obama and Michelle, they weren't home. And um, it remains unclear if their daughters were home because they were all in town, but they weren't home. Michelle and Brock, they weren't home, and we don't know if their daughters were. So there's been a request made to Barack Obama's office asking about who was in the residence at the time. I mean, 2 miles away, we have somebody drowning. So yeah, this is leaving us all in suspense. And I want to point to this. This parallels with Walter Scheib. He was an executive chef at the White House for 11 years under Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Scheib drowned in 2015 while he was hiking in New Mexico. So just a couple of things. Also, before we take the break, this is probably the best 27 seconds of TV that you'll hear all day. This is a flashback back to Ted Nugent, who is in all of my bumper music here on the Morning Buzz. I love Ted. He's, he's good. This is what he had to say about the vax. Here we go. Best 20 seconds of TV broadcast history. I'll see you in the- Yep. I'm going on day 100 billion thousand of not being vaccinated, and I'm still kicking it, folks. I'll see you on the other side. This is the Buzz. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We are going to be back. There's a few things that I want to get to, specifically the Illinois Department of Employment Security overpaying those benefits. Big yikes. Huge yikes, actually. So Center Square, they've got the article on this, and this audit was done. And kudos to Adam Niemerg because he was the one out there kind of questioning them on just how blatant the fraud was, how bad the fraud was. Um, Now, Dan Calkins, he says that when I read the report, I am on fire. This is beyond comprehension. Comprehension. They ought to sue. They ought to be sued for not performing and honoring their contract. This is criminal. So, what the IDES has done here is they have taken your money, $5.2 billion of it, taxpayer money, and they overpaid tens of millions of some who were incarcerated, people who were in prison, um, or people who were dead, like not even living, didn't even have a pulse. Um, yeah, so we're gonna get into that. Plus, David Paul Blumenschein joining me in the 8 o'clock hour. Unemployment spiked at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in the spring of 2020 after Governor J.B. Pritzker issued the stay-at-home order, right? So I actually collected unemployment because I actually lost my job for a few months. Now, what had happened was people were filing for unemployment. Now, under dead people's names or the incarcerated were filing for unemployment, and you can't have that. But they got unemployment anyway. So, the Illinois Auditor General report published on Wednesday shows billions of unemployment tax dollars were inappropriately paid out by the Illinois Department of Employment Security during that time, during COVID. The audit looks at the IDES from the fiscal year of 2020 to the fiscal year of 2022. So this audit has been done. Billions just fraudulently like paid out to people. This should enrage you. This is bad. So, what are Democrats saying about this? This news explains why so many eligible people struggled to receive their benefits to take care of themselves and their families. This is a Republican out of, or a Democrat out of Chicago. This is what he says. This audit shows that people took advantage of the Illinois outdated system and caused havoc on despair. No, 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 no. See, now he's blaming the people. He's blaming the people. No, we don't operate that way, okay? The way we operate, we assume that there are criminals out there and they're going to try to take advantage of the system. It should be the system that is up to date. The system should have been up to date. The audit shows that people took advantage of the Illinois outdated system and caused havoc and despair for so many people by taking taxpayers' money that they didn't earn. Oh my gosh. That's funny. We've got Democrats out here saying, oh, it's the people who took it. It's their fault. No, no, no. Yes, it is. Like they're scumbags, right? They shouldn't have been filing for unemployment if they didn't need it. And definitely not filing for unemployment under um, dead people's names. But come on now. We're going to blame criminals for being criminals. There's criminals out there. We have to be like ready for that. It's just amazing. I love the lack of accountability. Yes, the Pritzker administration is a total disaster as well. All Democrat control is now. Who cashed the checks? Who committed the fraud on that end? Someone in my house was paid benefits not earned as well. We just kept sending it back. They kept turning around, redepositing it over and over. Felt like money laundering game. It was months and months until the incompetent Democrat employees got it straightened out. Wow. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. You can see me live in studio on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. I'm everywhere. Now, on Fridays, I do like to bring you some good news. This is a good news story. It was a UPS driver saving a dog from a house fire. So get this. He's a UPS driver. His name is Chris, and he was driving a delivery route in Virginia. And recently he was driving, and he found himself in the right place at the right time. So Chris was about to make a delivery to a familiar house on his route when he smelled smoke, and then he looked up and saw smoke coming out of the attic of this house. Now he rang the doorbell and knocked on the door, but there was no answer. But he could hear dogs inside the house, so he kicked the door in hopes of getting the dogs to safety. Sure enough, the dogs were there waiting for him, and he was able to escort the dogs out to some fresh air, and he let the firefighters take over from there. But Chris did what any other working class hero would do. He would return to work to make sure everyone on his route received the packages that they were expecting that day. Imagine like saving dogs from this fire, this house fire, and then getting back into your UPS truck and delivering the packages. The homeowners, his coworkers, and all of his community recognized him for going above and beyond his call of duty. Chris was also recognized by PETA. Oh gosh. So speaking of PETA, one more story that I want to get to. before we cut the break. But let me finish this one. So Chris was recognized by PETA for the Compassionate Action Award for his heroic actions. They send him a certificate, coffee, chocolate, and an emergency window breaking hammer, and toys for his adopted cat and dog. So he has pets of his own. So, I mean, in that story, PETA's the good guy. Now, get this story. This is absolutely wild. So, PETA, there was this crash that happened, and it is tragic. Like, I'm not going to just sit here and say that it's not tragic that some cows died, or, had to be transported, but there's this news release that came across the desk, and I was like, my gosh, this is a Babylon Bee article. It has got to be. To memorialize cows who were killed on Tuesday when a truck carrying them crashed on I-74 near the Main Street exit. So that's right here, guys, in Bloomington. PETA plans to place a sky-high message near the site reminding everyone that the crash victims were individuals. No, 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 no. Cows are not individuals. Okay, that's offensive to humankind. Okay, like that's offensive. I love cows as much as the next person, right? And I respect them because they provide meat. And then I love this image. They put a little cow up there on this news article that they sent out, and I got it across the desk. It's a little cow, and it says, "I'm me. I'm not meat. See the individual. Go vegan." For every vegan that's out there, I just eat triple the meat, so that way they know they're not making a difference. Look, meat is good for you. It is good for you. Protein is good for you. I couldn't believe this. A sky high message. They have to put it into the sky to alert everybody that these people or that these cows were like individuals and that they were victims. No, humans are individuals and they're victims. Good morning, folks. Be sure to smash that like button. Smash that like button. AFSME. Yes, I'm part of this at the university, and that's how we say it. I opt out of joining, but I used to be part of it. Nice. Yeah. So, like I said, I know a lot of people who are a part of AFSME. AFSME. I'm a part of it at the university. I know that there are a lot of people who are a part of it, and I'm not ripping on the individuals, like the 35,000 individuals. Some of those people are very good people, I'm sure of it. And like, who's going to say no to more money, right? If you're working for the state. Um, However, in the long run, the amount of taxation that is going on to keep this afloat and the economic depression that this is causing in the state, it doesn't justify what you're getting. And they know that, and they just want an excuse to funnel money into the coffers here, the taxpayer coffers, and they want to be able to pay their friends, the state employees. Now, of those 35,000 individuals, I'm sure there's great people like you, Michael, right? I opted out of joining. I used to be a part of it. Ask me. The numbers, when you look at the numbers, $625 million, that's it's going to cost the state. It's not right. It's not right that there is this massive divide between state workers and ordinary Illinoisans. And until we fix that divide, I don't see how we are going to be on a financial path that is positive. And I don't care how much Jelly Bean lies. We are not doing well financially. And this is the reason why. People feel the burden of taxation here in the state of Illinois, and people are leaving because of it. Speaking of which, we will be talking with David Paul Blumenshine about some election numbers and some numbers that don't quite add up here in the state of Illinois when it comes to people leaving the state of Illinois and people voting. So we've got more of that ahead on the buzz. morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Happy Friday. We will be getting to a few things. A sexual assault survivor and a Leah Thomas teammate testifying before Congress about being forced to change in front of Leah/Will, and him exposing himself in front of all of these women with his full intact male genitalia. So she bravely took on Congress and testified before them about these transgender bathroom policies. We'll get to that here on the Morning Buzz, maybe a little bit later. But joining me right now, you know him, you love him, David Paul Blumenshine from the David Paul Blumenshine Show on Sunday from 1 to 3. David, how are you doing?
I'm cleaning my glasses over here, Kat. I had put the windshield wipers on my spectacles.
On your spectacles.
My specs. I guess the spectacle.
I would love to have those on my glasses. That's why I don't wear my glasses, because they just fog up all of the time in the summer, so I don't wear them ever.
In summer. In the summer.
It's hot.
My glasses fog in the summer. In the summer. That's the Joe Biden song, isn't it?
Yeah. So David Paul Blumenshine.
Yes.
The biggest story, I think, to face Illinois is what you have sent me. Bruce Rauner and J.B. Pritzker and Darren Bailey and J.B. Pritzker and Bill Brady and Pat Quinn. What is going on when it comes to Republican governors and like how many Republicans are in the state of Illinois and people leaving and these ballot totals, how many people vote for?
You know, Kat, so many questions that can't be answered. I happen to be the election integrity person for the Bailey-Trussell gubernatorial race, over 102 counties, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had a game plan that we needed to just overwhelm the polling places with poll watchers, election judges, basically observe the elections to make sure they're free and fair. Unbeknownst to me, and obviously this is kind of my Gomer Pyle movement, and many of you might get that if you're from the same generation as I am, that Gomer Pyle wanted to return his check to Sergeant Carter in the Marine Corps because he didn't feel like he earned it. Well, I don't feel like I earned my pay from the Bailey campaign, because what was the biggest thing to face us in the campaign, and especially election season? Before 20 days was even up in the 40-day early voting period, the Democrats had already accumulated enough ballots to win the election.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of been kicking myself, obviously the gift of failure, as my friend Dan Bongino has written a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
You learn from when you make mistakes. And this was a big mistake. So a friend of ours and a listener, she has pointed out many times, and shout out to Althea, that if you really want to look at what's going on with the economy, it's right in front of our eyes. It's the math. It's so simple. The cost of going out to any one of the grocery stores and purchasing groceries, gasoline, everything, the cost of living has gone up exponentially. Well, I started saying, you know what? I want to look at the numbers. And for some reason, Bill Brady, former Senator Bill Brady from right here in the McLean County area, he ran for governor twice. Well, the last race, or I should say the first race that he ran against Pat Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go back and you look at the numbers of what took place back when Bill Brady ran against Pat Quinn, you see that total votes casted in the state of Illinois in the 2010 gubernatorial race, there were 3.7 million votes. 3.7 million votes, some change, 29,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you contrast that to Bruce Rauner's race in 2018. 8 years later, there were 4.5 million ballots casted. 2022, 4.1 million ballots casted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's the breakdown. Bill Brady had 1.7 million, 13,000 votes casted for him.
Uh-huh.
Pat Quinn, 1.7 1,045,000. So the difference there is 32,000 votes. It was a very narrow race, right? Out of the 10,500 precincts throughout the state of Illinois, that my math serves me, it's about 3 votes per precinct difference between those two candidates. Okay, now we go back to 2018 and look at what did Bruce Rauner get? 1.7 million 65,000 votes. That was the year that 4.5 million votes were casted. Go to Darren Bailey's race. 1.7 million 39,000 ballots casted for Darren Bailey. Pritzker had 2.4 million votes casted for him against Rauner.
That's a million more than what Pat Quinn had back in the what race?
800,000. Well, close to, yeah, you're right. It was close to, well, it's close to 700,000. So J.B. Pritzker in 2018 got almost 700,000 more votes than Bruce Rauner, 500,000 more votes than Darren Bailey. And yet the Republicans really did not gain any.
It's all been
votes
since 2010.
Since 2010.
Been pretty consistent, where Governor J.B. Pritzker, or where the Republicans are getting 1.7, 1.7. It's pretty consistent.
And
but
now the thing
all of a sudden, when J.B. Pritzker gets into office, he has near a million more votes than what Pat Quinn had, the other Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, close to a million. But the interesting thing about using that million, you're right, Kat. Good for you. You're astute like that, and you jump on opportunities. In the state of Illinois, since 2010, outmigration has led to a net of over 1 million people have left the state of Illinois. So you might be saying to yourself, well, there you go. All those Republican voters left the state of Illinois. No, it doesn't show that the Republican voters, because the vote total is about the same from 2010 to 2022. 1 million people have left. Obviously, people have come in. So did more Democrats come into the state? I don't think so. This gets back to looking into this ballot chasing, ballot collecting initiative. Indeed, have they increased their vote totals by going out and getting low propensity, low information voters? That is
Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back here in just a little bit. David Paul Blumenschein joining me in studio today. Wow, oh, wow. That's probably the biggest news story I've ever seen, right? And I know that the leftists, they're going to be like, oh, well, these are all just coincidences and these numbers are just, like they're all just, it's all just a big coincidence, David Paul.
Dink.
A coinky dink.
But isn't it funny how the coincidences always favor the Democrats?
Yes. Yeah. The coincidences just always
they never favor
Democrats.
Coincidences or conspiracies. All these things never favor Republicans.
Yeah. Well, and I just find it so hard to believe that there has been no movement on the Republican side of things. I mean, there has been an energy. We can't deny that there was this grassroots energy for Darren Bailey. I don't know. I haven't voted really for a long period of time. I just started voting when I was 18, right? And I haven't voted in elections like Bruce Rauner or
as far as my math serves me, that would be, let's see, if you voted when you're 18, that would be your first election, and then when you're 20, you would be your second election, and then of course you have your consolidated elections that you could have been in, so you could possibly have voted in 5 elections.
5 elections. I don't think I did. I didn't start voting
because you didn't understand the consolidated and how important those local elections for school board are. I mean, that's the basis. That's the fertile ground of where they train up their soldiers, their minions.
Yeah, and this is just, and people are like, "Well, Kat, the state isn't incompetent, and they wouldn't be committing voter fraud." Come on, and I love how the Democrats. So there's actually this Democrat in this article about this.
Just because you said that, you mentioned the voter fraud thing. Let's be clear. We've said it from this microphone many times over. McLean County, for the most part, everything about it. I mean, there's always going to be little hiccups that happen. I mean, whether machines are correctly registering, but they've always been fixed. I think that Kathy Michael has done a very good job of handling the elections in a county that hasn't really lost any population. Yeah. And if you look at our vote totals, yes, they have changed a little bit. And part of that has to do with this, how bigger metropolitan areas, and not to say that Bloomington Normal is a bigger metropolitan area, but one of the targeted areas where they wanted to impact change has been Champaign County, Peoria County, McLean County. The Dems want those areas. Yeah. That's why they want to maintain strongholds in there. So, but Kathy Michael's done, I believe she's done the best she can do, because it's ever changing, right?
Yeah.
She went
like there's
Kathy
a lot of
Michael
things that come down from the state.
As the county clerk, she had 1 day to vote. And now she has 54 days to account for. So not an easy task by any means.
No. And I mean, where there's so much going on, there's people who will take advantage of the system, right?
Always.
So, and you have to, when you're in these government roles, understand that people are going to take advantage of the system and be proactive against that and get rid of things like these states are getting rid of things like ERIC.
Well, ERIC, and just so
I don't know what we have. Do you know what we have?
Well, yes, we have ERIC.
We have ERIC? Oh, okay.
Electronic Registration Information Center. We are one of the last states. It states here in this article that according to NBC, Texas is now the 9th state to leave ERIC, preceded by Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, West Virginia, Ohio, Missouri, Iowa, and Virginia. Basically, according to the study conducted by the Judicial Watch, the supposedly nonpartisan system that was in use by 32 states has come under intense scrutiny as multiple states have pointed to worries over alleged data security issues and potential left-wing influences on the organization itself.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, and you know what Democrats will say, and here's the thing, if there were ever to be voter fraud proven here in the state of Illinois at a mass level like that, where ERIC is like malfunctioning and counting dead people, right? What Democrats will say is, well, it's that system's fault, and they'll blame the system, or they'll blame the people who are, working that system to make it go in favor, and they won't actually look at themselves. The government role won't look at themselves and say, we need to take accountability for this.
But this is their contract.
because they want it. That's the thing.
Are we back on? I think we're. On voter roll cleanups, Eric does not actually require that member states remove ineligible.
Good morning, folks. This is the Morning Buzz. And I like this text. Asks me, right? I've been, asks me. That is the
largest public union in the state of Illinois.
It is the largest. Okay. Now, David Paul Blumenshine joining me in studio from the David Paul Blumenshine Show. You can catch that show, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, the David Paul Blumenshine Show. Be sure
DPB show.
Subscribe at YouTube.
And chat. Don't forget to put a comment in there. We love to hear your opinions.
Yes. I like this text. Would it surprise you to know that the IDES is a Asks Me member? So is that true, David Paul? The IDES?
The Illinois Department of Employment Security.
Because I know that it's a state worker thing. It's all county municipal government.
Well, and unemployment securities is throughout, obviously, Illinois. So, yes, I mean, there's a participation on all levels of the public unions, which gets back to this entire ballot gathering thing. But before I go into that real quick, and I know that we're up on a short segment, for our audience out there, I just want to make sure you're clear. The Texas is who dropped out of the ERIC system, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center. Electronic Registration Information Center. They were Texas, before Texas dropped out, states like Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, West Virginia, Ohio, Missouri, Iowa, and Virginia. So if you're wondering, what does Eric do? This is what Eric does. According to Judicial Watch on their white paper, on voter roll cleanups, Eric does not actually require that member states remove ineligible voters from their registration rolls. So you don't have to remove ineligible voters. States are only required to initiate contact with those voters. Eric claims to have identified 2.4, almost 2.3 million registered voters who relocated across state lines, 203,200 duplicate registrations, and 65,000 deceased registered voters. The Judicial Watch study notes. So that's what Eric is. And yes, Illinois does utilize Eric.
Okay. And the problem is systems like Eric, and I'm going to read a quote here. And I know that this IDS thing, people are, but it's the same thing. It's government being incompetent. There's this Democrat, and he's out there, and he's saying the audit shows that people took advantage of Illinois' outdated system and caused havoc and despair for so many people by taking taxpayers' money that they didn't earn. This is a Democrat out of Chicago. LaShawn is his name. He's a representative. I love it because he's not blaming the system. He's not blaming the outdated system. He's blaming the people who criminally took advantage of the outdated system. And that's the thing about Democrats is they point fingers, but they don't realize.
Is this like a Hunter Biden plea bargain agreement?
No, it's like, wait a second. You're blaming the criminals for being criminals. Yeah. It's essentially, there are criminals out there who are going to take advantage of the ERIC system, take advantage of things like the vote by mail system, the fact that we have 54 days of voting out there where it used to be opposed to 1. They're going to take advantage of all of these different new systems in place. And
one of the most powerful men in the United States of America at one time was Michael J. Madigan, the Speaker of the House, who sat in that seat for 37 years. There's an entire Illinois policy YouTube video on power, privilege, and something. This man is under indictment. And it took that long to catch up with him. And once again, who indicted him? Why was Michael Madigan moved out of the way? Was it because J.B. Pritzker no longer wanted him? Obviously, we know his daughter, who was the attorney general and didn't bring charges against him, she bowed out because I think it was looming. She knew. Getting back to the way they work through the public union system, they go to their public union meetings and they tell their members, here are the inactive voters. Here are the low propensity, low information voters. We're assigning them to you. You need to go out and make sure that they are getting a vote by mail ballot. Well, it's knock, knock at your door. You don't really vote. You really don't pay attention, but somebody comes to visit you and they're friendly. And they want to know if you want to get registered to vote, to make the state better, fair tax, affordable care, everything else that they put out there. And people sign up. So that's a very plausible way how they work the system. The system works, whether it's legal, illegal, they create laws to make it legal. And if they're not legal, then JB just circumvents them anyway, right? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I have to take a quick break, folks. David Blumenshine joining me here on a Friday.
Friday.
We're going to be back. We're going to talk a little bit about this ballot, these vote totals,
yes,
and how the Republican side of the aisle here, their vote totals have not changed since 2010.
Yeah.
Since
not one little iota. Statistically, really not much.
Which is just outrageous to me and very hard for me to believe. And then we see Governor J.B. Pritzker flying in with near a million more votes than
right out of the gate
than Pat Quinn did.
Yeah, he got 700,000 more votes than Bruce Rauner or Pat Quinn in 2018 over Bruce Rauner.
Incredible. Incredible. We're going to be talking about that here next on the Morning Buzz. Plus, I'm going to get David Paul's reaction here to this MSNBC lady swearing that Joe Biden did nothing wrong. All he does is he loves his son Hunter, and he's just such a family guy.
And that's a full day for Joe.
Yes.
Going out to get ice cream. I mean,
he's just a family guy.
Don't forget his nap. He's got to take a nap.
It's the shamelessness of it's not so much the shamelessness. They have no shame, the White House, and they're going to use this little talking point of Joe's just a family guy. Joe's just a family guy. And that's why he's that's why he's protecting his son and his shady business. It's like they want to avoid the criticism of the shady business dealings with Hunter Biden. They're so shameless. They're going to say that this is just Joe being a family guy. It's not just that, but it's also the fact that corporate media, the journalismers, they refuse to challenge that statement that Joe is a family guy.
Yep.
He's clearly not a family guy.
No. But aliens are going to try to meet with Joe, I think, at the White House here in the next couple of days. That's going to be the big thing. The big mothership, Close Encounters, is going to hover over the White House, and they're going to beam Joe up. beam Joe up, Scotty. Yeah, because anytime there's things go wrong,
there's always this weird distraction.
Oh, big distraction, and
UFOs. I don't think it's working though.
Of the Joe Biden
I don't hear anybody talking about the
Nobody's talking about that. That testimony, if you listen to it, it was like, and I love it whenever the Democrats get involved in something, they start saying bipartisan. This is a bipartisan problem. We should all be concerned about little green men coming in from other worlds far, far away. And
insanity. Well, and I have my own theories about that.
I'm going to tell you my theory. Once again, the universe was created in such a manner that if one thing were actually to go wrong, disruption, we wouldn't have life on this God's green earth. Mm-hmm. I believe the God of the Alpha and Omega created one humankind. Mm-hmm. Why do we have to create? It gets back to these people will worship cows. Obviously, I heard the segment on, the cows.
They're victims. They're individuals.
They're the me cows.
Me. I'm not me. Or I'm not meat. I'm me.
Me. No, I ate you the other night at Alexander Steakhouse.
It was delicious.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. I know. These people.
And I respect cows. Obviously, they're
there's a deep respect.
They're just like us. They have a lifespan.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, screechers, unless you want to be preserved in one of those. Sigourney Weaver was in that one movie, Aliens, where she was vacuum packed for a while, frozen, and then she was brought back to life. Do you remember?
Aliens? Yeah. I mean, I've never
Sigourney
watched
Weaver.
It,
she's one of those other vegans out there that wants to be preserved forever. She can be like Noah and be 900 years.
I was vegetarian. I didn't eat meat for about a couple of years, and I can attest to this. Right, had all kinds of health problems, and the moment I started eating meat, I was 20 pounds lighter, and like all my health problems went away. My hair got better. All kinds of things.
It's called protein.
Yes, it's called
and
protein.
We're called carnivores.
Yes, we have teeth.
Yeah, to chew.
To chew.
And like I said, not to excess. I mean, we don't want red meat, especially. I mean, red meat should be filtered in there with chicken and fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's carnivore diets that have shown that people do very well just eating meat. But I like my vegetables too, and my fruits.
Yeah.
I like a balanced diet. I don't believe in the USDA necessarily version of a diet, because I think that, that's how cows become cows. Is they start as little calves and they become big heifers. I mean, there's a certain amount of things we can put in our body. It requires that we exercise. It requires that we watch what we eat, especially anything with tons of sugar, which is most of the fat foods that we get from these restaurants.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
You can eat healthy in restaurants. Don't get me wrong. I know a particular little chicken shop over here that I like their kale salad. Now, not everybody goes there for their kale salad.
I like kale. Kale is good. Kale is good. We're going to be back here in just about 10 seconds, folks. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. David Paul Blumenshine joining me in studio. Be sure to subscribe to his channel, the YouTube channel, The DPB Show. Look it up on YouTube. Subscribe to this channel. You just hit the little button there, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and smash the like button if you're watching on Facebook. David Paul's going to be out at the fair. We need to plug that. The McLean County Republican tent. He's going to be out there. I'm going to be out there at our tent underneath the Nord Outdoor Power Entertainment.
Right down the way.
I am. Right down the way. Yes, 2 to 7. That's where I will be.
2 to 7 during the heat of the day.
Heat. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz with David Paul Blumenshine right over there. I'm Kat Peterson. There I am.
I have to, because I look up at the camera. We have cameras in our studio.
Yes, we have cameras in the studio. They're on. The lights are on. You can see us live on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Twitter. Be sure to subscribe to the DPB Show on YouTube and Conservative Cat on YouTube. So we are talking about these vote totals, and it just doesn't quite add up. So 1.7 million are the vote totals for the Republicans since Pat Quinn versus Bill Brady in 2010, right? So we haven't gained any kind of new voters since 2010 as a Republican Party in the state of Illinois. I find that hard to believe.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. And I came upon this, encountered it when I went to work for the Bailey campaign, for his gubernatorial campaign. I knew in July of last year that we had to do something different than what we've done over time. I just didn't realize, because I didn't know these numbers. I knew that Bill Brady narrowly was defeated by Pat Quinn. I didn't realize it was only 30,000 votes, which, if you do the math on it, with over 10,500 precincts in Illinois, that's 3 votes per precinct across the board. I mean, that is 30,000 votes out of 3.4 million. But if you look at this thing, that year in 2010, 3.7 million votes were counted. All right. Now, if you go and you fast forward to the election against Bruce Rauner, there were 4.5 million. So 8 years later, there were 700,000 more votes cast or counted. I should say ballots. 700,000 more ballots in 2018. Now, you might remember that Bruce Rauner was the incumbent. He had created a budget impasse by, not putting forth a budget where he was willing to, or he wasn't willing to sign the budget that they put forward, which unfortunately was just more spending, more putting things out there that would create a descent of our credit rating and everything else like that. But Bruce Rauner that year lost by 700,000 votes. Now you go to the Bailey election, and he lost by 400,000 votes. There were 4.1 million people, or 4.1 million ballots counted in the 2022 election. So between 2010 and 2022, the Republican Party didn't even move the needle. Darren Bailey had 1.7 million, 39,000. Bruce Rauner, 1.7 million, 65,000. Bill Brady in 2010, 1.7 million, 13,000. So the margin of error is incremental, right? It's 0.5% or something like that difference. But the Democrat side of the aisle, they gained,
near 1 million.
You know, when they talk about, you know, because they've screeched about it. They were the leaders in talking about fair and free elections and improprieties in voting and machines and everything. They led the cause during the Bush Gore era, you know, and it's continued on. But this is really suspect that we've had an outmigration, Kat, of over 1 million people in 10 years. And yet the vote totals don't reflect that.
No. And we wonder why J.B. Pritzker is so feverish about this U.S. Census data.
Yeah.
He is hell bent on convincing you that nobody has left the state of Illinois. And you want to just continue to ask yourself this question. Why does J.B. Pritzker want to convince me that nobody has left the state of Illinois?
He also wants to convince you that we've had 8 credit upgrades, which means that if you start with 22 downgrades and you go 8 upgrades, I'm pretty certain, JB, my math tells me you're still 14 down. But and you've balanced the budget every year since you've been governor. But keep going. I digress.
Yeah. And then he also wants to convince us that all of our state departments, like the IDES, they are just running in tip-top shape.
Yeah, can't count for $47 million got lost somewhere.
Yeah. We overpaid people who were dead.
Yeah.
We paid dead people checks. We wrote them checks with our taxpayer money.
Yeah, people that weren't eligible to receive money.
Who weren't even
the pandemic.
Forget
relief.
not eligible. They weren't even alive.
But this is what I'm saying. It's all moving the pieces of the puzzle because they have an ultimate goal of what they're trying to achieve. You know, I don't know. Did you see this piece, Kat? It's up on our social media page, and I think it's the most recent post. I'm sharing it because one of our loyal listeners, Lisa Ann, shared it on her page. I can get to it real quick, but I think it's fascinating. This was in 1954 by a judge from California. Did you see this piece? Well, like I said,
at it now.
Are you looking at it right now? Read through that. That's what I find fascinating is that, you know, divide the nation philosophically, foment radical strife, cause distrust of police authority, swarm the nation's borders indiscriminately indiscriminately and unconstitutionally, engender the military strength to weaken it, overburden citizens with more unfair taxation, encourage civil rioting, and discourage accountability for all crime. Try that in a small town.
Yeah.
Control all balloting, control all media. It was written in 1954. Not 1984 like George Orwell. This is 30 years before Big Brother George Orwell. So,
wow.
But this was a former opinion of a former judge, Keith M. Alber of California.
Check that out on our social media, folks. We do have to take a quick break, but we're going to end the show. David Paul Blumenshine, where are you going to be in just a few moments? I think at 9 o'clock.
I got to leave here right now and head out to the McLean County Fair. Come by the McLean County Republican tent just as you pass the entrance. I'm there. And then if you go a little further past the McLean County Republican tent, you can run into Kat Peterson here in a little bit at 2 o'clock, right, Kat? Oh, Kat's hitting the sneeze button.
Yes.
Yes, she'll be there from 2 to 7.
Yes, I'll be there from 2
4.
to 7. Yep, just right down the way. I'll be there 2 to 7 at the McLean County Fair. I'll be back ending the show, The Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson. Thanks, David Paul Blumenshine.
Thank you, Kat Peterson.
Good morning. All right. When we come back, we will be talking about JB, this MSNBC clip. This lady swears that Joe Biden did nothing wrong but love Hunter Biden. And she says all of this, of course, to the former Biden spokeswoman, Jen Psaki. So we are going to be talking about that. Plus, hopefully I can get to Tafari Campbell and his drowning. I'll get to it here for you guys. At the Obama estate. So the call logs, you're supposed to leave a reason for the call, the emergency call. And this reason was left blank. And the cops are refusing to release the name of this paddleboarder. I don't know if they know the name of the second paddleboarder who is seen out there with Tafari. Tafari is the private chef, was the private chef before he tragically passed in this drowning at this Martha Vineyard pond. It was like 8 feet deep and he drowned, and he looked like he knew how to swim. So there's a lot of things that don't add up here. Why was he out there without a life jacket? Who was he out there with? There was a call placed. The call was traced back to a paddleboard launch that was 2 miles away from Joe Biden, Freudian slip, from Obama's private residence, the $12 million mansion. Now, Obama and Michelle were not at the mansion at the time of the death. They were in town, so were their daughters, but we don't know if their daughters were in the residence at the time of the death. So there's a lot of curious things happening with that story surrounding Tafari, and I don't like that the call log did not have an explanation next to it. Yeah, all the other calls that were placed after that call uh, had explanations next to the call, so it was all left blank. So yeah, and also I want to make note of Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Their executive chef actually died in a very similar way. It was a parallel death. Walter Scheib, was the executive chef at the White House for 11 years under Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. And he drowned in 2015 while he was hiking in New Mexico. Mhm. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Happy Friday to you. Now, the MSNBC lady, she's swearing that Joe Biden did nothing wrong but love Hunter Biden. And she's swearing this to, of course, Jen Psaki. Here's what it sounded like on MSNBC. It's just a 20-second clip. Take a listen. Here we go.
loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and without evidence of the father doing anything other than loving that son.
What accusations and arguments do you think they're going to make, given this didn't go exactly as planned today?
Well, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing. They are going to try to indict a father for loving his son who has been addicted to drugs and or alcohol.
Sick of it. The shamelessness of these people. The White House using this. Joe Biden just loves his son to dismiss any kind of criticism of Hunter Biden's shady business dealings, right? They're going to dismiss how serious his shady business dealings are by blanketing it with this statement that Joe Biden just loves his son, okay? And there's that shamelessness, but then also the shamelessness of knowing they can get away with it on corporate media without being challenged. And Exhibit A, I just played for you. There was an NBC analyst. She's a former Democrat senator and talking head. And she was talking with who else? Who other than Jen Psaki, who would dismiss Hunter Biden questions from the White House podium before it became Karen Jean-Pierre, Black lesbians, before her job. Became her job. So, look, Hunter Biden banged prostitutes. He sent his dad clips of homemade porn. He used his father's political connections as vice president to get ahead. And look, folks, that's not going to fly with a lot of American people. We don't like that. We think that's immoral. And neither is this talking. This is not going to fly, the talking point of Joe Biden being a family guy or a family man. He is not a family man. People who love their families don't reject their grandchildren because of politics. He doesn't acknowledge or speak to this grandchild. And people who love their families don't take showers with their daughters inappropriately. Yes, I've got the clip here from Tucker Carlson talking about just that, how Joe Biden used the FBI as his personal secret police to go after Project Veritas journalists who were in possession of this Ashley Biden, his daughter's diary. Here we go.
Inappropriately showered with his own daughter. He should be asked that at his next press availability. His chief of staff, Ron Klain, who runs the country, should be asked, you work for a man who showered with his own daughter and by her own account distorted the rest of her life because he did. How do you feel about that? And at that point, Joe Biden should resign. And at the very least, spend the rest of his life trying to repair his own children who need it badly.
I love it, Tucker Carlson. As always, look, it is not going to work. This Joe Biden just loves his son crap. All right, that's going to do it for us. Friday, I am out at the McLean County Fair. Come see me 2 to 7. Right down. If you go walk a little bit further from the McLean County Republican tent, you'll see me. David Paul Blumenshine is out there right now at the McLean County Republican tent at the McLean County Fair. It's a hot one, so drink a lot of water today. The heat index, I think, is like 113 degrees. There's going to be weather forecast all day today from our meteorologist, John Weatherby. So be safe out there. I love you guys so much, and we're going to do it all over again on Monday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you.